It always started the same way. Whispers in the grocery store line, fake smiles at the school gate, and those quick glances filled with judgment when she walked by with her son. Anna didn't have much, not anymore. Just a rusty old car, a cramped, one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, and a heart full of silent bruises. She used to be someone else, someone different. But ever since her husband left her pregnant and penniless, the world around her seemed to decide she wasn't worth kindness anymore. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices in the early mornings and waiting tables at a diner that paid her just enough to keep the lights on. And people still acted like she was the problem. Her little boy Jamie was 5 and full of questions. "Why does Miss Clarence say I can't play with Logan anymore?" he'd asked once, tiny fingers curled around hers. She didn't have the heart to say it was because Logan's mom didn't want her son around the trailer park trash. That's what they called her behind her back, sometimes even to her face. But Anna never begged for sympathy. She smiled through cracked lips and carried on even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. The PTA moms loved to pick her apart. Chelsea Radmore was the worst of them, rich, arrogant, and bored. She would sneer and toss her blonde curls, loudly whispering to the others things like, "Did you see what she wore to parent night? Looks like she pulled it out of a donation bin." One time Anna brought cupcakes for the school fundraiser, handmade from scratch, even though she barely had money for flour. They were tossed out. "We can't serve things that don't come from licensed kitchens," Chelsea had snapped, loud enough for everyone to hear. Health code violation. Nobody stood up for her, not the teachers, not the other parents, not even the school principal. They all just watched like it was normal to humiliate a woman already drowning. But the thing about Anna, she wasn't just surviving, she was hiding something. Something no one in that judgmental little town would believe. Her real last name wasn't even Carter. That was her ex-husband's name. The name of the man who stole her savings, left her broken, and walked away like she meant nothing. Her birth name, one she hadn't spoken aloud in years, was Anna Delacroix, and the only reason she hadn't used it was because she didn't want anything to do with the fortune it came with. She had run from all of it, mansions, staff, press, expectations, after a falling out with her late mother. The Delacroix name opened doors, but it also came with chains. Her mother had tried to mold her into a proper heiress, the future face of Delacroix Enterprises. Anna had wanted a quiet life, a normal love, a family on her own terms, and she paid the price for it. Now her mother was dead, and the world had no idea that the so-called poor single mom was the only living heir to a billion-dollar empire. The will had been sitting in her inbox for weeks. Her old lawyer finally tracked her down. "You need to come in, Anna, it's important," he had said. But Anna hadn't gone. Not yet. She didn't want to open that door again, until everything in her life finally broke past the point of pretending. It started with Jamie coming home in tears. Someone had pushed him at school, called him names. His lunch had been dumped in the trash. And Anna had stood there in the bathroom, wiping his cheeks with a shaking hand, knowing that love alone wasn't enough anymore. Not in a world like this. She kissed his forehead, then walked into the living room, picked up her phone, and dialed the number from the will. "It's Anna," she said softly when a voice picked up. "Tell Mr. Grant I'll be there tomorrow, first thing." The world that spit on her was about to learn the truth, and it would be too late for them to regret it. The next morning was cold and grey, the sky hanging low like it didn't know what to do with itself. Anna woke early. Jamie was still sleeping, curled up in his little bed, clutching the worn teddy bear he named Rocket. She stood by the door for a long moment, watching him. Part of her wanted to forget it all again, to just keep scraping by quietly like she had for years. But something inside her had shifted. She scribbled a note for her neighbor to check in on Jamie and then got dressed, not in her usual faded jeans and hoodie, but in something she hadn't worn in years. A black wool coat, clean lines, sharp collar, old but elegant. The kind of coat that didn't beg for attention, but didn't allow you to ignore it either. She pulled her hair back and left the apartment without looking back. The law office of Grant and Kavanaugh sat like a monument in the heart of downtown. Tall glass windows and cold marble floors. Everyone there looked like they came from old money and never spilled coffee on themselves. The receptionist glanced up as Anna walked in, eyes scanning her from head to toe like she didn't belong. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes, Anna Delacroix." That name dropped like a hammer. The woman blinked, sat up straighter. "Oh, yes, of course. Please, right this way. Mr. Grant has been expecting you." She was escorted into a private room, sunlight pouring in through tall windows. Behind the desk stood Martin Grant, her mother's longtime attorney, older now, greyer, but still carrying himself like someone who knew the weight of secrets. He rose when he saw her. "Anna, it's been a long time. Let's not pretend." "We missed each other," she replied quietly, sitting down. She wasn't here for warm memories. Grant gave a slow nod and slid a thick envelope across the desk. "This is everything. Your mother's will, the estate transfer, the trust, the company shares. You've inherited full control." Anna didn't touch the envelope. Why didn't she leave it to the board or her sister? Because she knew. You were always the one with the backbone. She never admitted it, but she respected that you walked away. She also knew this world would eat you alive if you came back unprepared. So she waited, watched, and now it's yours. Anna's heart was a storm. She hated the woman her mother had been, strict, cold, always disappointed, but she had loved her too, even when it hurt. And now that woman had handed her the empire everyone else thought they deserved. "You don't have to decide today," Grant said, "but if you take this, you'll need to change everything." Anna stood. "No, I don't need time. I've decided." For too long she had let people believe she was less, that she wasn't capable of more than picking up after their mess or smiling through their cruelty. But now she was going to remind the world exactly who the hell she was. "I want the press notified by end of day," she said, her voice steady. "Let them know Anna Delacroix is assuming her place as sole heiress and acting CEO." Grant hesitated. "That's going to stir waves. The media will tear into your past. You've been off-grid for years. They'll dig through everything." "Let them," Anna said. "Let them know the poor single mom they laughed at is back, and she's done letting anyone step on her." By evening, her name was everywhere. Headlines screamed in disbelief. "Heiress found living as single mom in poverty. Delacroix Empire gets shock new leader. From rock bottom to boardroom. Anna Delacroix returns. Delacroix. Daughter declares control. Corporate world shaken." Back in her apartment, Chelsea Radmore sat with a glass of wine in hand, staring at the news with a frozen face. Her lips twitched as if trying to speak, but couldn't. Her husband looked up from the article and said, "Isn't that the woman you were always mocking at school?" Chelsea didn't answer. She just gripped the glass tighter until her knuckles turned white. Anna sat on her bed, holding Jamie close. "Things are going to change, baby. You won't have to fight for your place anymore. Because now the girl they all pushed down was the one standing at the top." The following morning, Anna stood in front of the Delacroix corporate tower, a steel and glass monument that scraped the clouds. She had seen it countless times in photos growing up, but standing before it now felt different, no longer the outsider. This time, she owned every inch of it. People were already gathered near the entrance. Reporters, photographers, board members and staff who hadn't seen her since she vanished from society over 6 years ago. She walked through them like a ghost-turned queen, wearing a navy blue suit that fit like armor and a stare that refused to be questioned. Inside the building, nervous glances followed her. Whispers danced across marble hallways. "That's her? She's really taking over? She's got a kid, right? Lived in the poor part of town? What does she even know about running a company?" Anna heard every word. Let them talk. She hadn't survived judgment, starvation and humiliation just to flinch at office. Gossip. The boardroom was already filled. 11 men and women, most of them older, wealthier and furious. Richard Bancroft, the acting CEO for the past 4 years, sat at the head of the table. Grey suit, smug smile. "Anna," he said smoothly, "you look, well, I must say we didn't expect you to come charging in like this." She smiled. Coldly. "It's Miss Delacroix now, and you can slide over. I'm taking my seat." A silence spread, heavy and awkward. Richard blinked. You understand this isn't a joke. Running Delacroix isn't like running a PTA bake sale. We've built this company over years. You've been gone. And yet my name's on the deed, isn't it? She pulled out the signed documents and dropped them onto the polished table. You're talking about building something off money you didn't earn, connections you didn't create, and a brand built off my family's legacy. But don't worry. I'm not here to throw tantrums. I'm here to run the empire you thought. I forgot. You don't have the experience, one board member muttered. Anna leaned forward. No, I have something better. Clarity. I've seen the world from the top and the gutter. You've only ever known how to protect your seat. I know what it means to build from nothing. The board sat quiet. No one dared respond. Back at the school, Chelsea Radmore was in the middle of organizing a charity luncheon when her phone buzzed non-stop. Every notification was the same. Anna Delacroix, Billionaire Heiress. Her eyes burned as she watched the press conference footage on her screen. I knew she looked familiar, one of the mums said behind her. You were always so hard on her. How awkward. Chelsea forced a laugh, but her stomach twisted. That girl she mocked, belittled and humiliated now had enough money and power to destroy her life with a single headline. And Anna? She hadn't. Forgotten a single name. Not the fake friends. Not the teachers who looked the other way when Jamie came home crying. Not the landlords who refused to fix their moldy ceiling. She had a list, names written down, memories burned deep. But revenge wasn't about shouting. It was about precision. And Anna was ready to use every dollar, every connection, every opportunity to shift the balance. Her first order as CEO, a corporate program for struggling single parents, full childcare, coverage, housing support, education stipends. When the press asked why, she looked them dead in the eye and said, because I know what it feels like to be invisible in a world that only sees dollar signs, and I'm not here to play nice with people who forgot their humanity. People cheered, others seethed, but everyone was watching. Because Anna Delacroix, the poor single mum they all ignored, wasn't here to blend in anymore. She was here to take over. It didn't take long before the ripples became waves. Within 2 weeks of Anna taking charge, things inside Delacroix Enterprises started changing. And people noticed. The lobby didn't just welcome hedge fund sharks and venture capitalists anymore. Now you'd find single mothers dropping off resumes and ex-convicts sitting for interviews. A new hiring policy Anna approved personally had just one requirement. Real struggle and real drive. We don't need more rich kids in suits pretending to care, she told HR. We need people who know what it means to fight. She got pushback, of course. Old money hated change, and Richard Bancroft hated losing power. But Anna had the authority, and she wasn't using it to just play boss. She was building an empire on her terms. She walked the halls, remembered. Faces listened to the janitors, the secretaries, the interns. She made people uncomfortable, not because she was rude, but because she saw through them. All the masks, all the fake smiles. One afternoon, Anna sat at her massive office desk, flipping through documents when her assistant Lily stepped in. There's something you should see, Lily said, holding out a folder. Inside were records, financial ones, signed under Richard Bancroft's name, company funds, millions, funneled into ghost subsidiaries, offshore accounts, fake contracts, shell company that just so happened to pay for the Radmore family's luxury home expansion last year. Hannah stared at the papers, her eyes cold and still. Are you sure about this? She asked. Positive, we triple-checked, Lily whispered. They've been bleeding the company for years. Richard, Chelsea, a few board members, all tangled up. Anna closed the folder slowly. Let's not go public yet. Why not? Lily blinked. We have everything. Because exposing them too early would make them victims, Anna said calmly. I want them desperate first, cornered. I want them to realize the person they bullied out of their world now owns every piece of it. Across town, Chelsea was on the verge of panic. The fundraiser she used to brag about every year, cancelled. The luxury sponsor pulled out. Apparently, Delacroix Enterprises had reallocated community investments. That was Anna. Chelsea's emails were going unanswered, Her calls avoided. Even the school's new board president, a woman Anna personally recommended, no longer looked her in the eye. "I need to fix this," Chelsea hissed at Richard over a private dinner. "I didn't spend years building this status just to have her show up with a cheap suit and charity case." Richard, ever the snake, smiled through clenched teeth. "Don't worry, we still have options." But they didn't. Not really, because Anna had already set her trap, and it was working. She started sending anonymous donation receipts to journalists, tipped off small media outlets, whispered, in just the right ears. She didn't lie. She didn't even twist the truth. She just let the facts speak for themselves. And slowly, one by one, their reputations began to crumble. Headlines began popping up. Delacroix board scandal. Where did the millions go? Chelsea Radmore. Linked to corporate embezzlement funds. Anonymous source confirms they mocked her, now they're begging her. Anna watched the fire spread with a quiet satisfaction. Not because she wanted revenge just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever been kicked while they were down. The funny thing? They still didn't see her coming, not fully. They thought they could outplay her, but they were playing checkers. Anna was already playing chess, and the queen was never meant to hide behind pawns. By the third week, the whispers had turned into screams. Reporters camped outside the Delacroix Tower. Chelsea stopped showing up to the school altogether. Richard Bancroft, once the untouchable face of the company, was now hiding behind no-comment press releases and private lawyers. Every day brought a new leak, a fresh scandal, a deeper cut into the image they had carefully built for years. But Anna? She remained calm. In meetings, she spoke with precision. She signed deals, built new partnerships, and turned Delacroix into something sharper, more ethical, more human. Investors were divided. Some hated it. But the public? The public loved her. "She knows the struggle," people tweeted. "She's the real deal." But power has a way of testing you in strange, cruel ways. It started with the school. Jamie came home quiet one afternoon, his face pale, eyes heavy. Anna knelt down. "What happened, baby?" They took me out of class," he said, slowly. "Said I was in trouble, but I didn't do anything." Anna's blood ran cold. He pulled a folded slip from his backpack. A formal warning. Apparently, Jamie had disrupted the class by speaking out of turn and making other students uncomfortable. But Anna knew what this was. Retaliation. Subtle, cowardly retaliation. She called the school the next morning. The principal's tone was nervous, defensive. "We're just following procedure, Ms. Delacroix. We treat all students equally." "No, you don't," she snapped. "You treat my son like a threat because you're afraid of who his mother became. But let me make something very clear. If this happens again, I won't be calling. I'll be sending lawyers, and you'll be out of a job by noon." The principal stammered something about policy, but Anna was already done listening. She hung up and dialed her assistant. "Lily, double the school donations, then call the board. We're installing a Delacroix scholarship fund, one that comes with the power to veto school administration." "Done," Lily said without hesitation. Anna hung up and sat still for a long moment, her fists tight in her lap. They had gone after her son, and now all bets were off. Meanwhile, Chelsea's life was collapsing in silence. No more lunch invites, no more board meetings. Her own husband had stopped defending her in public. The worst part? She couldn't even run to the media for sympathy. Anytime she tried, the story twisted back around, reminding everyone of how she mocked the single mom in the cheap shoes. Now that single mom had the power to decide whether Chelsea even got to keep her house. And Richard? He was desperate. He called Anna one night, his voice calm but hollow. "We need to talk." "About what?" she said coolly. "How you stole from my family for years, or how you sat there and laughed while I cleaned your floors. You don't want to do this," he warned. "Oh, I already did." "I'll go public," he threatened. "If I go down, you go down with me. I know about the settlement, the one you made years ago to disappear. You think I can't spin this?" Anna didn't flinch. "Try me. You think you're better than us because you got lucky, but you don't know what it takes to run a world like this." Anna's voice was ice, No, Richard. I know exactly what it takes. You just never thought someone like me could survive it." Then she hung up. The next day she released the financial audit, fully public. No redactions, every stolen dollar traced, every name printed. She stood in front of a press conference, holding the mic with steady hands. These men and women thought money made them untouchable. They forgot something important. "I've already lost everything once. I have nothing left to fear." The fallout was brutal. Richard Bancroft was forced to resign, charges were filed. Chelsea lost her seat on every board she was part of. And Anna? She walked through it untouched. But as she stood alone in her penthouse office that night, the city below glowing like a distant fire, something inside her ached. She had won, but something felt unfinished. Because revenge could only carry you so far. And deep down, she wondered, what comes after victory, when all you ever wanted was peace? Anna had just finished a late meeting when her phone buzzed again. Not her corporate line, not her personal phone. A dusty, old flip phone, the one she kept hidden at the bottom of her nightstand, powered off for years. She stared at the number. On the screen, unknown, no ID, but somehow her hands already knew who it was. She answered without speaking. A voice came through, low and sharp. "Anna." Her breath caught in her throat. "Michael?" Silence on the line. "I didn't think you'd pick up," he said. "Wasn't sure if you even still had this number." Michael Carter, her ex-husband, the man who walked out the door 6 years ago with a suitcase full of her savings and never looked back. The man who left her pregnant, broke, and alone. She hadn't heard his voice in years, and yet hearing it now felt like a bruise being pressed, all over again. "What do you want?" she asked flatly. "I saw the news," he said. "Figured it out. You're not just some working-class martyr now, huh? Anna Delacroix, heir to billions." "And?" "I need to see you," he said. "It's about Jamie." The mention of her son made her body tense. "What about Jamie?" she snapped. "You've never cared about him. You've never even tried to see him. Don't act like you suddenly care." There was a pause. Then quietly, "He's not just yours, Anna." Her voice dropped. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "I'll explain in person, tomorrow, downtown. Bring a lawyer if you want, but you need to hear this." He hung up before she could reply. Anna stood frozen in her apartment, the room dead silent except for the low hum of the city outside. Jamie was asleep down the hall, safe, warm. He had no idea the man whose blood ran through his veins might be coming back with, what? Regrets? Demands? She didn't sleep that night. She just sat by Jamie's door staring at the hallway like a soldier on watch. The next day she arrived at the cafe where Michael had asked to meet. He was already sitting there. Same smug smirk, just a little older. More lines on his face, but the same snake eyes. He stood when he saw her. "You look expensive." "You look like regret," she shot back, sitting down. He chuckled nervously. "Okay, fair. I deserve that." "No, you deserve worse. Now tell me why I shouldn't get up and walk away." Michael leaned forward. "Because Jamie's not just your son. He's the legal heir to the Carter estate." Anna blinked. "You had an estate?" "I didn't back then," he admitted. "But things changed. After I left, I got into tech, crypto stuff, startup stuff. I made money. Then I lost it. Then I made it again. Now, I've got people watching me. Lawsuits, IRS. I need to transfer some of my assets. And I figured Jamie's a good name to park them under for now. He's blood." Anna stared at him like he was poison. "You're not here for Jamie. You're here to hide your money under a 5-year-old's name. Think of it as setting him up for life," he said. "No," she said coldly. "I am setting him up for life. You don't get to show up and play father when your world's falling apart." Michael's voice turned darker. "You really want to play this game, Anna? I still have rights. I can file for joint custody. I can make noise." "You have no idea who you're threatening," she said, her voice low and deadly. "I own the city now, every headline, every judge. You want to play legal games with me? Try it. Michael stood. You always did think you were smarter. No. I knew you were a coward. I just hoped I'd never have to hear you prove it again. He walked away without another word, leaving a bitter silence behind. That night, Anna sat in her penthouse, staring out over the glittering skyline. Her world had changed, but so had her enemies. She wasn't just fighting back against Chelsea and Richard anymore. Now she had to protect her son from something worse than their judgment, his own father. The official notice came 3 days later. A thick white envelope slid under her apartment door. Petition for joint custody. Filed by Michael Carter. Anna read the words twice. Then she ripped the paper in half, her hands trembling, not with fear, but fury. He was serious. She'd underestimated him, thought he'd crawl back into the shadows when she said no, but now he was trying to use the courts to get back into Jamie's life, not for love, not for redemption, but for leverage, for money. The media caught wind almost immediately. Tech bro files for custody of billionaire heir son. Anna Delacroix in legal battle with ex over secret child. Anna had spent years being invisible. Now she couldn't breathe without a camera lens in her face. Paparazzi camped outside Jamie's school. Her social media was flooded with both support and venom. Everyone had an opinion, everyone thought they knew the story. But no one knew what it felt like to explain to your 5-year-old why the man who disappeared now wanted to take him away. He's not going to take me, right, Mommy? Jamie asked one night, his small voice trembling. I don't want to. Go. Anna hugged him so tight she could barely breathe. He's not taking you, baby, I promise. Still, promises didn't mean much in a courtroom. Anna hired the best family lawyer in the state, Renee Vaughan, a woman with sharp suits and sharper eyes. Renee didn't waste time sugarcoating anything. You're rich, powerful, and you walked away from the name for 6 years. That's going to come up, she said bluntly. They'll call you unstable. They'll say you abandoned your wealth, that you denied Jamie access to his father. They'll twist it all. Anna didn't blink. Then we untwist it. The court hearing was set. A private custody trial, but nothing stayed private anymore. Protesters stood outside, supporters too, and deep down Anna realized this fight wasn't just about Jamie anymore. This was about every single woman who'd ever been told she wasn't good enough to raise her child alone. The courtroom was cold and white. Michael wore a tailored suit like he belonged there. He smiled for the cameras. He played the role of the reformed man, calm, clean, concerned father. But Anna knew better. She'd seen the face behind the mask. And this was just another performance. She hid our child from me, Michael's lawyer argued. My client deserves to be a part of his son's life. He's willing to provide, to guide, to... Anna's side cut in. Renee stood. Mr. Carter abandoned both mother and child during pregnancy, left them with 0 financial support, never contacted, never checked in, never sent a single birthday card. His sudden interest coincides with the child's newfound billionaire status. This is not paternal love, it's opportunism. Michael stood, pretending to be hurt. I was young, I made mistakes. But doesn't everyone deserve a second chance? Anna finally rose to speak. No, she said, voice calm but heavy. Not when you had 5 years to show up and didn't. You didn't miss me, Michael. You missed the money. You see Jamie as a loophole, not a boy with a heart and a mind. He's not your second chance, he's my everything. And I will burn every dollar I have before I let you use him. The judge didn't speak right away. The silence was thick. After recess, the judge returned with a temporary ruling. Michael's motion was denied. No visitation, no shared custody. Not until a full psychological and financial review was complete. Outside the courthouse, Anna faced the cameras for the first time. I am not just a mother. I am a survivor. And no matter how rich I become, I will always fight like the broke woman who had to protect her child when no one else would. The crowd roared. Michael vanished from the headlines for now, his smirk wiped clean. But Anna knew better. Men, like him, didn't disappear. They waited, and so did she, with sharpened claws and the power of 1,000 eyes watching. 2 months later, the city was buzzing with whispers. The Delacroix Foundation was hosting its first public gala since Anna took over. Invitations had gone out to CEOs, lawmakers, celebrities, press, and even former enemies, though some didn't have the nerve to show. The venue, the old Radmore estate, now officially owned by Delacroix Enterprises, Chelsea's prized mansion, stripped from her in a quiet foreclosure, Anna had repurposed it as the Delacroix Center for Single-Parent Support. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The night of the gala, Anna arrived in a black gown that shimmered under every flash, her hair pinned high, her son Jamie walking beside her in a little suit, beaming like he owned the stars. Cameras went wild. She posed, she smiled, but inside she was made of steel. Inside the ballroom, speeches began. Champagne flowed. But when Anna took the stage, the room went silent like a held breath. She stood there without notes. I remember walking through grocery stores with a screaming baby and $3 in my wallet, she began. I remember people judging me for not being enough, not successful enough, not proper enough, not quiet enough. She looked around the room, her voice steady. But what I remember most is how easy it was for people to pretend I didn't exist. No one moved. Now those same people watch me on television and ask me to donate to their causes. Now they call me an inspiration. But I didn't do this to inspire them. I did this so that no woman has to hide behind shame, just to raise her child with dignity. Applause thundered across the room. And I haven't forgotten a single face that turned away from me. You taught me what power really looks like. It's not wealth, it's survival. And tonight, we're giving $100 million to build support. Networks for women like me, for children like Jamie. Reporters rushed to capture every word. The internet exploded within minutes. Anna Delacroix trended worldwide. And somewhere in the back of that glittering ballroom, Chelsea Radmore stood quietly in a borrowed dress, her face pale and tight. She hadn't been invited. She had shown up unannounced, slipping past the outer gates in a moment of pure desperation. She locked eyes with Anna as the speech ended. Anna walked to her, no malice in her face, just clarity. I came to say sorry, Chelsea whispered, almost trembling. Anna studied her, then gave the faintest smile. I don't need your sorry. I needed it 5 years ago when I was invisible to you. Now I'm not angry, I'm just done. Chelsea's face fell. She tried to speak again, but Anna had already turned and walked away, toward the cameras, toward her son, toward a future she carved out of broken pieces and buried names. Later that night, as the city lights blinked in the distance and Jamie fell asleep against her shoulder in the limo, Anna stared out the window quietly. She thought about every cruel word, every locked door, every day she cried in silence. And she realized something. She didn't need revenge. She was the revenge, and she had just begun.